welcome to episode 1 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. My name is Allan Simon. Thank you for joining us. And this is the first episode. This is where we're going to kick things off and take a look at what we can expect from the 2025 New York Jets. And listen, the number one thing we want is to see, can this be the team that breaks the curse? Can this be the team that is the first to make the playoffs and what will be 15 come this winter? And it all starts by putting together a winning season. And they've not done that in 10 years since the debacle in Buffalo, and the Ryan Fitzpatrick-led team won 10 games and unfortunately could not beat Rex Ryan to make the playoffs. And since then, they've averaged around 5 wins per season. And it's been a lot of disappointment, a lot of heartache. Last year, of course, was perhaps one of the most disappointing seasons, as Aaron Rodgers was unable to really do much for this New York Jets team. He was not able to change the culture. If anything, he made it toxic and so much worse. And it cost a lot of people jobs, and it cost a lot of pain for the New York Jets fan. But what it means is we have another new regime and another opportunity for the New York Jets to turn the page. And I don't think there is a better person than Aaron Glenn, the new head coach of the Jets, to do that. Glenn, the former Jets standout cornerback, someone who's been coached by Bill Parcells. He's been on the staff of greats like Sean Payton, and he's been able to work underneath Dan Campbell. And overall, the culture needed to switch over. When you go from a loose, lighthearted coach like Robert Saleh, it then means you need someone a little tougher, someone who's more hard-nosed, and I think that is Aaron Glenn. And as we look at what the 2025 preseason is starting to feel like and what training camp is shaped up to be, what obviously jumps out is that all the players couldn't stop themselves from saying how different this felt than last year and how different it was than under Saleh, how they're tackling live in practice, and there's referees on the field, which is a funny one because the Robert Saleh used to have referees on the field, but the Jets were trying to cut costs, so they did not hire refs, and then what happened? Well, they're the most penalized team in the NFL last year. So it's things that seem really simple that they've changed under Aaron Glenn so far, and although there's been a lot of talk about how it feels, so far the product on the field in training camp is a mixed bag, and it all starts with the quarterback Justin Fields, who they're trying to remake into a top 20 quarterback. So what does this mean? Well, there's a lot of competition at different positions with the Jets going into the first preseason game against the Packers this Saturday. We'll take a look at some of the key folks I'm excited to see on the field in a live game. But what I think needs to happen with this Jets team first is, now that they got to kind of talk their smack about Saleh and the difference between the team last year to this year, I think it's important that they fully turn the page, because in the first scrimmage we saw, which is the green and white scrimmage that was played the other day, it was more of the same, a really, really sloppy scrimmage. There was a lot of penalties. Justin Fields was 2 for 10 and didn't look too great, and we'll talk about why that might happen too. But overall, doesn't matter what the team says, the Jets and Jets fans need to see a product that's just different. And with Justin Fields, I think it's important to set proper expectations, right? I think if we're looking through the lens of this team of how can the Jets be a 9-win team, which I think is about their ceiling, 9-10 wins if everything goes amazing, when Vegas has them at an over-under of 5.5, right? So we're really leaping for those 9 wins. But what it means is Justin Fields is at least a top 20 quarterback. That has to be the ticket for the Jets. He needs to be a serviceable, average quarterback. He needs to run the ball a lot. This needs to be a top 5 running team in the NFL if they're going to win 9 games. And for Fields to think he's going to step in and throw for 3,500 yards and, have 25 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, it's just not realistic. He's going to turn the ball over. He's going to miss games this year. We're going to see Tyrod Taylor because he's a running quarterback, and he's going to take a lot of hits. So this needs to be a full team build. And there's parts I really like going into this first preseason game. It is amazing to say that the offensive line is actually a strength for the New York Jets, which when you spend 4 first-round picks over the last 6 years on offensive linemen, you'd hope that eventually a good line comes out of it. There seems to be a stability for the starting 5 there. We know who the skill position players are. We know there's Garrett Wilson. We know there's Breece Hall. I know a lot of folks, including me, are excited to see Braylon Allen in year 2. So we know the good. The bad is still a lot of the same things we've seen in the past. interior linemen stopping the run is going to be a problem this year. Who's the wide receiver behind Garrett Wilson that's going to be a true wide receiver too? Is it going to be a rookie tight end in Mason Taylor who's going to get, the second most looks? Or is Breece Hall really just the second passing option on this team? Overall, there's still so many unknowns, but the core of it needs to be Justin Fields being a consistent, steady force on the ground, making plays with his arm when he's able to, and the defense needs to be a top 15, top 10 defense if they're going to make the playoffs this year as well. They did a really good job of adding some depth in some important places. I think the cornerback room is really, really good. Brandon Stevens, I know it was a lot of money for a guy who didn't have a great year last year, but playing on the other side of Sauce Gardner means you're going to get a lot of balls thrown your way. And he has shown across his career that he can be a shutdown corner. And then you still have Michael Carter as the nickel back, and he's been consistent for a long time. And, I think they did a good job by bringing in Andre Sisco, who's going to have moments this year that Jets fans are going to hate. He's a big playmaker at safety, but also you'll see a lot of guys run by him every so often. There'll be moments at MetLife Stadium where we're going to be cursing his name. But overall, this is a team on defense that has a good secondary. In terms of linebackers, Jamian Sherwood and Quincy Williams, that is a solid 1-2 punch at linebacker, and they can tackle really well. We know that Quincy's playing for a contract this year, which means he should be aggressive, be looking to make a lot of plays. And Sherwood showed last year that he can be a top tackler in the league. But the two of them can only play as well as what the defensive line allows them to, right? And that is where this team needs some help. The defensive line is an issue. Jermaine Johnson is still a little bit away from being 100%. We're not going to see a lot of him early on in the year, which means we're going to have to suffer through Michael Clemens. And I think we all agree that we've seen too much Michael Clemens. When he's playing every down, he is susceptible to, get beat by the run a lot. And he's better as a sub-package guy and not the guy who's on the edge every single down. Obviously happy with Will McDonald's development. You hope for another step up from him this year to become a borderline elite pass rusher in this league. And we know what Quinton Williams is going to bring you. But other than that, the defensive tackle position is really light. Who's going to be the defensive tackle too for this team? We're going to see a lot of guys in the preseason like Coward and Nandi and Tufele and Leonard Taylor and all these guys try to get into the mix, when I think the best option for the Jets right now is look for a veteran who's not on a team right now. What are you going to do to make sure this defensive line isn't just solid, but has any sort of depth whatsoever? So looking into the first preseason game against the Packers this week, some of the folks I'm looking forward to seeing, one's Isaiah Davis, and man, the running back room is really good. Braylon Allen, I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be the guy who gets the most carries on this team. Breece Hall is going to be a pass catcher, and he's a home run hitter. And then you have Braylon Allen being the pounder. But you also have another running back, Isaiah Davis. He's eventually going to be the type of guy who can be a starter in this league. He's a great pure runner. He makes a cut and he goes. So we're going to see a lot of all three of these running backs, and I'm excited to see what Davis can bring with a workload in the preseason. Also, I'm excited to see Quantez Stiggers, who is a fifth-round draft pick for the Jets and someone who has some pretty good tape. That room is crowded, right? There are a lot of good cornerbacks in this training camp, so I'm curious to see if he can really stand out and fly around and make some plays and solidify himself on this team. I mentioned the interior linemen, Derek Nandi, Tufele, Leonard Taylor. Who's going to step up and be a run stopper? Now, one I'm really disappointed who I'm not going to be able to see, and we're not going to be able to see, is Malachi Moore. I think he can be the starter over Tony Adams, but he's down with an oblique, and it's going to be a little bit before we see him on the field again, which means we're going to probably see Tony Adams starting at safety once again. And although he was once a promising, surprise guy on the roster, I think we know who he is. He's made some big plays. He had the big pick against the Eagles. He's exciting to watch sometimes. But when you have someone like Sisco who's going to take a lot of risks, what you also need is someone who can tackle. And Malachi Moore can tackle. He's someone at the point of attack who can be really aggressive. He played a lot of games at Alabama, over 60 games played at Alabama. This is a guy who can really make a difference. Interesting, we talked about who's going to be the second pass catcher on this team. It might be Mason Taylor. Jason Taylor's son, an exciting pick for the Jets this draft. He's looked really good. He's had some drops in training camp, but overall, he's been one of the standout stars of this team. So I'm excited to see him with pads on, ready to go in a live game. And then also, I want to see Josh Reynolds, Arian Smith, Tyler Johnson, right? Who are going to be the primary receivers? Josh Reynolds seems to be locked in as wide receiver 2. Arian Smith and Tyler Johnson are going to fight for that wide receiver 3 position. In a perfect world, and I'll eventually have a blog out about who I think the best 53-man roster would be for this team, I would love it to not include Allen Lazard. I know he costs a lot of money, and they like that he's a good run blocker. But if he's a veteran who's not getting the ball thrown to him, are we sure he's going to be fully engaged in the run game too? When you know he's on the field, they're probably running the ball anyway. I think the Allen Lazard situation has to come to an end. And then we'll see also, this is going to probably be 2 quarterbacks to start the season on the active roster. See Adrian Martinez, see if he can be a 3rd quarterback on this team, or they're going to have to go somewhere else for their QB3. So a lot of exciting things coming here at the Gangrene Against the World podcast and as well on the blog. I'm looking forward to watching Saturday to see how the Jets look in a live game, and we'll be bringing some other folks in as we go and travel through the preseason, and then eventually week 1 against our friend Aaron Rodgers at MetLife Stadium. It's going to be a treat, and the whole idea is, can this be the year that ends the curse? Will this be it, and will they finally make the playoffs, or can they at least win 9 games and be a winning football team for the first time in a decade? A lot of question marks. I trust Aaron Glenn. I'm excited to see how he looks as a head coach in the NFL, and overall, I'm excited to get things really rolling on Saturday. So, I'm Allan Simon. This is episode 1 of Gangrene Against the World podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to talking to you soon.